Monday, the 22nd of April. Let's get the new week started. We're beginning to crawl towards the end of the month of April. By the way, we've got a gist week and a few more sessions next week, and that's a wrap for the first month in the second quarter of the year. We saw the Egyptian stock market starting the week with a very positive 1.03% on Sunday. The rest of Frontier Africa on Friday were a little bit mixed. The South African market, the GSE, eked out roughly 0.4%. The Nigerian market finished the week in the red, about 6 basis points. Turnover, volume, a number of deals continue to decelerate slowly, with, of course, bargain hunting remaining very strong within the banking sector. We've got a couple of news out there for you from Nigeria's banking space, as we've got a few more days before April the 30th, when all Nigerian banks will have to submit their recapitalization agenda to the central bank, the financial regulator. We've got a couple of breaking news out of that early this Monday morning. If we just give that to you very quickly, a High Court over the weekend confirmed that a new CEO, an acting CEO for First Bank of Nigeria Limited. Remember, Adedotan retired, resigned over the weekend. Adesola Adedotan, who has been the managing director of First Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria's oldest commercial bank, resigned late Friday, just as the bank also suspended, or the FBN Holdings, which is the parent company, suspended its earlier planned extraordinary general meeting for April the 30th to submit its recapitalization program to the central bank. We got news coming through over on Sunday that an acting chief CEO, Olusegun Alebiosu, has now been appointed and his name submitted to the Nigerian exchange by FBN Holdings as the CEO, the acting managing director and CEO of First Bank of Nigeria Limited. Of course, First Bank of Nigeria is not listed, but the parent company, FBN Holdings PLC, is listed on the stock exchange, and that is the news this morning. Adedotan said the man who retired or who resigned, left on Friday, had been in the saddle for 9 years plus, is due to retire in December. He will not be part of the bank moving forward. So we now have a new acting managing director, Olusegun Alebiosu, as the new acting CEO of First Bank of Nigeria. We've seen some of this boardroom movement as banks in Nigeria begin to reposition and jostle to meet this recapitalization deadline set by the financial regulator. But let's move on with the BRVM down by 0.1% on the composite. By the way, the Nairobi market was down roughly 1% on Friday. Let's take that down. Look at the big stories east of the continent. Let's just get moving on. And of course, you got to see that Safaricom, reporting from Ethiopia, is boosting because its position, because the Ethiopian authorities have slashed termination charges for telecoms within the country between Ethiotel and Safaricom, two of the biggest players within that space. We also got news from the IMF that is keeping one permanent eye on Ethiopia's very soft insecurity. The Tigray region crisis, as a peace accord was signed months ago. Whether that will remain in place and solidified is anyone's guess, but the IMF says it's a little bit wary that insecurity could return to one of the biggest economies in the Horn of Africa and moving to join East African community. That's out of Ethiopia. In Kenya, Nation Media, the biggest media organization, not only in Kenya, but entire East Africa, posting its first loss ever since 2005. 205.7 million shillings was what was reported just before the weekend. In the meantime, Kenya and Uganda trade tensions is escalating over tax dispute. The last dispute between these two big economies within the region was over the pipeline and delivery of food products into Uganda via Kenya, which has been a very historic relationship that has been repaired. Then you've got another dispute over tax matters. In the meantime, South Sudan is looking to restart its oil exports in between 6 to 8 months. The breakaway southern region of Sudan will need a now independent state. The 54th state in Africa will need to move on very quickly with the oil and gas industry, and that is what the country just announced is going to happen in about 8 weeks' time. That will be taking you to effectively around the first half of the year in June. Let's keep those headlines in mind as we step into West Africa. Of course, we got a couple of news on Market Street over the weekend, with Nigerian president sacking the entire board of the SEC, as well as the National Insurance Commission, which is NICOM, putting a new chairman, a new set of director general into those two key agencies, one for the securities market, the other for the insurance sector. The SEC has a Bitcoin expert, Emamotimi Agama, as the new director general, a former CEO of the NESD, who is also joining as acting commissioner for operations. That's Bola Jomale. All of that in the news this morning. We've got a whole lot to digest with the Adetuton's, Olusola Adetuton's resigning from First Bank of Nigeria over the weekend. And now we have Alebiosu being appointed over the weekend, confirmed over the weekend by High Court, according to some online news report this morning, that has been confirmed as the new acting CEO for First Bank of Nigeria, when the FBN Holdings, the parent company of First Bank, would hold its extraordinary general meeting for recapitalization. The original plan was to do 300 billion naira to recapitalize fully to the level that the regulator is asking for. All of that we're focusing on. We're talking about the new team at the SEC and NICOM over the next few days. You got this news already that Dangote's bid to merge its sugar, rice, and salt businesses has been stopped by the Securities and Exchange Commission. That news came towards the end of last week. In the meantime, West Africa is speaking. WAEMU economies are still the poster boy for sub-Saharan Africa's growth. Cote d'Ivoire, Benin Republic, Angola, as well as DR Congo. And that's according to the latest report from the IMF from the just concluded spring meetings in Washington, D.C. In the meantime, Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt, Algeria, South Africa, and Egypt are beating Nigeria to the fourth place as the fourth biggest economy in Africa. That's according to the latest calculations by Bloomberg, placing Nigeria's GDP now around 250 billion US dollars. Over the last few years, Nigeria upstaged South Africa as Africa's biggest economy. Now Egypt, South Africa, and Algeria in North Africa is beating Nigeria from number 1 position to number 4 position. And that's the news everyone is looking at as we get on with the rest of the quarter. Let's move on and check in with Southern Africa, by the way. Of course, you got news also late last week that the second largest insurer in South Africa, that's Old Mutual, has gotten a license from the regulator to set up an OM bank, which will focus on mid-level and lower-level South Africans, by the way. Congratulations when they get that done. GSE is also planning to relax its rules to encourage more smaller listings on the market, while the MSCI South Africa Property Index, Morgan Stanley Capital International Property Index, posting a return of 8.7%. Income return for last year was about 8.3%. That's also in the news as we start the new week. Namibia is looking to join OPEC anytime soon, sometime very soon. Last week, there was a major conference that focused on sustainability, local content, and people, and putting people and planet first as the country joins the League of Hydrocarbon Producers in Africa, including hydrogen as well. That is also in the news. Namibia is looking at 700,000 barrels per day output by the year 2030. In the meantime, Zimbabwe is still wrapping its head around the reintroduction of a new currency, the ZIG. 2 Mondays ago, 11 companies had fallen victim of the new currency, as well as other FX issues. Zimbabwe's Financial Intelligence Unit late last week froze the bank accounts of those 11 companies. In the meantime, Mr. President Emmerson Mnangagwa says the biggest threat to the new ZIG are illegal black market FX traders. Keep those information in mind. In the meantime, next month, Zimtrade, which is the agency responsible for trade and investment, is working on a trade mission to Angola that will help the two countries enhance bilateral relations and economic trade linkages. That's from Southern Africa. We take it all the way to the northern part of the continent. Of course, you've got Egypt in the news as well as Tunisia. The Byzantine governance, which is the region of Byzantium, says it's done about 12.3 million dinars investment over the last 1 year, about 52 or so, about 32 projects that is expected to boost economy within that particular region. In the meantime, Egypt says it's ready to hold the next summit of the Arab finance ministers that is scheduled to take place in the new month of May. In the meantime, SDX Energy says it's sold off its assets in Egypt for about $6.6 million and now focusing exclusively on Morocco's projects. Finally, Morocco and Safran said they have a new deal on the table to boost aircraft engine maintenance partnership within the country. Morocco is the country to go to in North Africa when it comes to aircraft maintenance, and the entire African continent. Morocco takes a lead in that. Those are your headlines as we start the new week. Have a profitable week ahead. I am Bosun Omofoya, and I will see you back soon on Frontier Opening Bell. Don't forget, join us on Wednesday with Tuleto, my colleague from South Africa, beginning us at the weekend review for the Southern African region.